to the one you thought was on your side. She can't understand, she truly believes the lie. Lemon pie, he's coming through. I'll command us still, spaced out. I'm secure, spaced out. Hey there, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. It's amazing. So many people have tuned in. I'll be signing books for everybody that ordered through Premier Collectibles. And I've got Tash here, who kindly is going to moderate this one. We've been obeying the rules, and it's just a few of us here at the house and Martian. And so thanks for being here, Tashi, and helping me out.
Of course, thank you for having me. We have quite a lot of questions that we're going to be answering from you guys today. So do you want to start with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so apologies in advance if I say any names wrong or any city names wrong. But the first question is from Jason Scott from Odenton, Maryland. And he asked, what was your favorite memory to revisit while writing this book?
Well, I guess the book comes out today, and Resistance. So when I wrote the Mary chapters, which was, I guess, end of May, June, we were together, and we were in Florida. Mary had passed the day before Mother's Day in 2019. And although she had been suffering from a horrible stroke, cruel stroke, really, I thought I'd be relieved when she wasn't suffering anymore. But what it did was it just gave me the space. I'm not sure if you experienced a similar thing, but I started to remember the magic and the most loving woman I've ever known in my life. And I started to remember all those memories. Did that happen to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we weren't really able to do that when she was still here. So once she passed away, we were able to revisit that.
Yeah, I think when she had the stroke, it was almost as if it was almost a betrayal. And I don't know if you felt that, but it was a betrayal to not see Mary as she was in the present, because then it was almost yearning for somebody else, and we didn't want to give the impression that we wanted her to be anything else because she was going through enough herself. So we started to remember, and I started remembering when my father would go to the church. I was a little girl, and he would have his whole minister's outfit on with the collar. And after breakfast, he would leave to go do the God-bothering stuff. And Mary would take off her apron and say, come on, let's play some records. And she would be this DJ. Honestly, she would play records for hours, and we would dance, and I would twirl. And she was an amazing dancer. I'm terrible. But she was incredible. And then she'd have me learn all the tunes.
What was her favorite of yours to play for her?
Well, she loved Billie Holiday, Fats Weiler. Her crush was Frank Sinatra.
Of course.
That was her. She called him Blue Eyes. So, yes, she had a huge record collection because she'd worked in a record store. I think once she dropped out of college. I'm not sure when she worked, but that's how she collected all this huge record collection.
That's amazing. Would she hide them, or did Granddad just not know they were in the house?
He was kind of oblivious because she wouldn't play that music really when he was around. She had crates. They were just boxes in the dining room, and he just didn't pay much attention. There was religious music too. So we had plenty of those, people singing hymns, and there was Handel's Messiah, and there was that kind of thing. But what he really didn't see going on was when my brother would bring in the doors or stuff like that. Devil's music.
Right, the best kind.
Oh yeah. And all the teenage girls were running away to follow some of these bands. So my father and the parishioners were very much against devil's music because it was corrupting all the young girls. And I thought, oh God, I want to be a part of it.
That's amazing. On to the second question from Ariana Jensen from Minneapolis, Minnesota. What has resistance meant to you at different periods of your life?
Well, wow. Good question, Ariana. So it means different things. Right now, it's meaning resisting being despondent. I think this time we'll talk about that, but it's cataclysmic this time. I've never experienced anything in my lifetime, and I don't know how you see it, Tash, but it's really, you've been busy with uni and doing all the essays constantly for the last many, many, many weeks. So now that you're coming out of that, I wonder how you're seeing this time of lockdown. It's different.
Yeah, it is. And that theme of resisting something seems to be throughout the book something that you have learned from other people being complicit, almost.
Yes.
And I really liked how, whether it be from the beginning when you're talking about the managers at the clubs who would force complicitness from the workers into of the behaviour of the senators, or women who help with FGM later on in the book when you talk about that, or Jimmy Carter and the Shah. It seems that you can't be anything but resistant if you're part of the act, almost, if you're complicit.
Yes. Yes, and it's working in Washington was very much an eye-opener because I was being taught we were all being taught how our government worked. But then being on the inner loop of the Beltway and working down there, I began to learn about the power of the lobbyists. And that was that was so depressing because I didn't understand that corruption was so alive and well, and the liquid handshake. But being a piano bar player, first in Georgetown, which we can talk about later, that was such an amazing experience. And then, of course, the happy hour time where deals were made and lobbyists would come in. And I was underscoring that very much, watching it happen before my eyes.
That's amazing. This next question is from Alex Hagan in Seattle, Washington. Alex asks, how long did it take you to complete writing this book, and do you see yourself writing more books in the future?
I guess writing this book is the hardest thing I've ever done. The musical was challenging as well. Working with Samuel Adamson was a dream. It was fabulous working with him and learning and collaborating together. A book, I didn't realize staring at a blank page how intimidating it can be, and the anxiety that starts to come up. And Uncle Neil Gaiman warned me before I started that books were hard, and not to be afraid of the second, third, and fourth draft. So once I got to the Mary material, which was about not quite a year and a half after I started writing in January of 2018, with Rakesh Sachal being the most amazing editor ever. And he called me up after I turned in the Mary chapters in June and said the good news and the bad news was that I needed to, I found the voice for the book with the Mary chapters, and I needed to really rewrite the whole thing. So he was right. You need an editor or a co-producer or sound engineers or people on the team to say, we're not there yet. But you have a direction.
Right, but those Mary chapters are incredible to read.
She was, there with us. I think the idea that we were together, and I remember that we were alone pretty much for the most of it at that point. Family would come in and out and go see Granddad, and we were checking in on him because he was, like all of us, devastated. But it was almost as if writing in the place, Mary picked out that house. So it was her vision, and looking out on the Indian River, which is what it's called, onto Bird Island, and she loved her birds. So writing and looking out at what she had wanted us to see. She didn't want, her biggest fear was having a stroke. She would always say, because her mother did, so she would say, never let that happen to me. Well, and so then seeing what gave her so much imagination and joy, looking out on that beautiful river, to write those chapters, it just seemed like it all came together with her help.
Yeah, and her bringing you through different periods of time is such an amazing thing to read. I think everybody will love that. And it almost feels musical, the way you write that. Like how it transitions, quite melodic almost.
I wonder if the rhythm of the water, the waves, with the doors open and listening to the waves while writing in the middle of the night. I would try and not wake you, but we were sort of living a crazy sorority life together, where you were cooking a lot and I was writing through the night. And I'm not sure why I would write so much through the night. Maybe it's because I felt other people weren't taking the energy, that people were sleeping, and it's almost as if, I don't know, we could tap into something.
That's so lovely. The next question is from Dana Hanovic from Jeanette, Pennsylvania, and she asks, why did you want to create this book?
Well, Rakesh, the editor, came to see me at the Beacon on the Native Invader tour, and I've known him for quite a while now. He was involved in the first book that I worked on with the amazing Ann Powers, the journalist, and Rakesh was part of that. And he said, I think you're ready to write, and I think it's time. This was after, of course, the 2016 election, and we were sort of midway cycle almost. And so that was the impetus. But then, I don't know, it started to write itself.
Yeah, well, thank God that he made you do that, because it's so amazing, and I don't think that you ever thought about writing a book really before that, did you?
No. Sometimes I do think in our lives we all need somebody that nurtures us and pushes us. If there are artists in your life sometime, and it's not telling them what to do, I would never tell an artist what to do, but sometimes we all need a little nudge. Just a little, you can do this.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it didn't take a lot of work and a lot of tearing up pages and a lot of getting it wrong. I think realizing that I was going down the wrong road, but that can happen with everything, with records. That's happened. It does happen where I realize, wait a minute, maybe these songs aren't for now. Maybe they just don't resonate with what's going on. That's kind of happening right now.
Yeah.
I thought we were writing a record. We were going to have a record out before the election in 2020. And we were going to be touring. So, and we were going to be on a book tour right now. And it's, the world's turned upside down, and so we're having to adapt. And I think the songs are changing in order to document the stories we're hearing and the things we're hearing from you guys and what you're going through. I was really looking forward to seeing people and hearing, not knowing we'd be in a pandemic, of course, but wondering, gauging where people were going to be and what they were thinking.
Yeah, because even before the pandemic, it was like 2020 is off to a rocky start, and then boom, global pandemic. So I love in the book how you talk about songs coming to you and then telling you maybe you're not ready for me yet, or this isn't the right time. Do they come to you fully and then you sort of hold off, or is it just like a little snippet of the melody that then comes back to you a couple of years later?
Usually they come in snippets, but there are times when I get a download. And that doesn't mean the download doesn't need shushing. And because in trying to take dictation sometimes it's, 11 minutes, and you're just going with it. And it might not make complete sense in a music form, and there could be more, there could be several ideas there that should be in different songs. So a lot of the work is listening back. The process is whatever device you're using to record on your ideas. It used to be a cassette player, and now it's an iPad. And then documenting that on June 2019, this idea connects with December 4th, 2019, which is connecting with another fragment in March 2020. So then it's putting them all together and having notebooks that document these things, saying, I don't know, Coco Confessed is sounding like cowbell, is sounding like jibada,
Yeah.
and then it's crafting.
Yeah.
So they sprinkle sometimes, and once in a blue moon, I can get a whole melody or a whole thing bang, and you think, wow, that's a really amazing feeling when that comes.
And when you get that whole melody, do you ever, like we're talking about with the timing of songs, do you ever say, I'm actually going to hold off on this one? Or do you always just want to use it right then?
Sometimes I don't know what to do with it. I'm not quite sure. And that's where I am right now in this process with songwriting during this time. I think it's an incredible opportunity for all songwriters. And I think, and writers, all artists, to try and put these emotions and the mental experience we're having during this lockdown, what it's bringing up, and putting it into work. Because everybody will have a different viewpoint. Everybody's experiencing, we're all in this, but people are experiencing different things. When I hear, for example, some people are incredibly lonely. A husband would give anything to be lonely right now. I mean, if he could be alone, I think he'd be happy as clam. But he's not alone. And so we're stalking him, and that's just his life right now. So if he could swap places, I think, with my sister, who's a social butterfly and she loves being with people.
Yeah.
And she's great at it. And he loves not being with people.
That's amazing. This question is from Kevin Clark Ammon from Huntington Beach, California. What is your favorite venue to play at?
I like the Albert Hall. It's magic. It's a tough room, I think, to on all levels, as far as I think. If you're amplifying, it's very different than if you're not. So with classical music, yeah, there's something about the Albert Hall that's really special. You've had some pizza parties there.
I have, yeah. You provide a great entertainment service for those pizza parties in the Albert Hall.
I hope you had good candy boxes up in your...
Oh, we did, yeah. Being from 11, we would always go on a school trip to see you.
They wouldn't give you booze though, right?
No, they gave us like candy hearts and Doritos
How
and stuff.
nice.
Yeah, it was lovely. This question is from Phyllis Horridge from Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Hello, Phyllis.
What advice would you give to your teenage self?
Get some therapy sooner than later. Yeah, probably yes. And less anger, more smile, as they say. And that, I guess what I would really want to say is that everybody's journey is so different, particularly as artists. Your what it takes to find your writing style. Sometimes we try on different styles, and they don't really suit us. I might have wanted to have been a certain artist, but then I had to discover which one I really was. And it can evolve. I think it can, but sometimes you think, oh, I want to be that kind of performer, and then you realize, but I don't wear it well. It doesn't really feel comfortable. It feels forced. And so then you have to find out what that is, because also what other people want you to be, and fill a slot. There might be a slot that needs filling at a record company, or a slot that needs filling with other art forms, whether an actor feels there's more work in this area. But then you have to really figure out, but what am I good at? And what can I work on to be better at?
Just to add on to that question, I find it very interesting that in the book, your teenage self acts as your guide when you are a little bit lost. And I don't think most people would rely on their teenage selves to guide them. Why did you choose to incorporate that?
The teenage self that I run into is the one that's playing the bars in Georgetown and in Washington, D.C. at the time. And she has a real, she has a sense for BS, especially Washington BS. And I think that's because she cut her teeth there. That's where I learned about the gay culture. I would have never learned as a teenager about that at that time in 1976. Had granddad, who, for those who don't know, is a minister, and took me down to get a job, and nobody gave us a chance except Mr. Henry's, the gay bar. That was our first shot. And he got a lot of flack for that. But he and I learned a lot about the gay community, which there's no way a 13-year-old girl, unless there's a relative who's teaching you, or maybe a teacher who would talk openly, but people were very guarded at that point, and a lot of people weren't out. So employers, they might be hiding from them. So it was a huge opportunity.
Right. So your teenage self was almost less naive than a lot of people were probably at that time, and maybe was harder to social truths.
Well, yeah, I think she was learning a lot and observing a lot. And the maitre d's, particularly, a lot of them were gay in the hotel bars, and some of the waiters were really trying to teach my teenage self what was really going on. Mm-hmm. And gay men know a lot about men.
Right.
And they really knew a lot about lobbyists and the deal making and how it worked. Mm-hmm. And that was we've talked about, that was crushing in a way, because we all have a vision of what America, democratic America is. And yet then learning how it operates, how politics operate, particularly in Washington, and how criminality can become legal if you have the right judges and people changing laws so that it benefits white-collar crime. And that was what my teenage self was learning. I think also I had a vision of what I wanted to do, and I hadn't yet been broken down. That happened later with so much rejection once I got to LA, and I was exhausted sending my tapes out for years and years and years and years, and people saying this girl in the piano thing's never going to happen, or this isn't going to happen. So finally you go, well, I'm going to die in the piano bar, so maybe they're right. So you start writing to the slot.
Yeah.
And that's where I had to learn the pretty painful lesson of when you betray your artistry and you don't follow the path the muses are kind of pointing you to follow, because it doesn't make sense to the business people, and you decide to listen to them.
So what was it about your teenage self that maybe you felt you lost later on in life that you needed to revisit? And do you think that you did get it back through the process of writing this book?
There were songs I would write for my friends. Connie might remember this, but I would write songs that reflected what we were feeling. I had this song, More Than Just a Friend. I had songs that I think they might have been naive, but they were genuine. They weren't trying to be something they weren't. I have a bunch of those in my song Graveyard too. But trying on different styles and seeing what worked. I think that's a natural part of the process when you realize, oh, I shouldn't go after that. But they came from the right place, whereas then trying to write a hit song or trying to write, that might be somebody's calling, and it just might be a perfect fit. But for me, it just, I got it all wrong when I would do that. When I was trying to write what I thought was a commercial song, what that idea was, it never was good. It was just like, no, car full of boys, what are you doing? What are you thinking? You know, totally different than from writing from a place of, I want to tell this story because it's moving me.
So using her to find your authenticity again as a writer.
Yes.
That's so interesting. Israel Placencia from San Diego, California asks, did the music muses interfere with the process of the book writing at any point?
Oh, they're always interfering. They usually come at the most inopportune time. The tricky thing is when they're coming and you're giving a live show, you're in a concert, and you're like, oh no, not now. But the thing is, they actually were very helpful because I guess being broken down by Grandma's passing and her death, and Beanie having just passed away 2 days prior, it was such a shock. And I almost think that they were guides. They're so prevalent in my work. They were two of my muses, human muses, that I would write about. And so with them going at the same time, there was this gaping emotional emptiness. So I think remembering the songs that they inspired and just playing them made me realize that they live on.
Yeah.
And Mary sent me a message, which was, we live on in the songs. You can find us there.
I love that part of the book. That's so beautiful.
It kind of made me get out of that broken rocking chair before the captain came over and fixed it.
Yeah.
But there really was a broken rocking chair, and I really was getting lost in it, and feeling sorry for myself because I'd lost two of my very best friends in the whole world. And so then writing about their amazing insight and remembering them, remembering their humor and their brilliance.
Yeah. I love how you write about them, and also how you intertwine two people who probably couldn't be more different, really, how they come together and they hold a similar place for you, which is, it's really, really interesting how you do that.
Yeah, they're so different.
Yeah.
But they loved fiercely. And their love was their loyalty, and unconditional love. I mean, when Beanie loved Nancy Shanks, or when Mary, Mom, loved Mary, was a warrior with her love, unshakable. That kind of, you can't buy Mary's love. Mary couldn't be, seduced in that way. And I haven't seen that really in my life, where I use the word unshakable, that love. And when Mary saw you, you just felt as if, I don't have to try. I don't have to try.
Yeah.
I don't even have to wear quarantina for Mary. But I do like her. Thank you. Thank you, Adam.
Matthew Burdett from Delta, British Columbia asks, what do you feel is the specific importance of queer people in resistance? Oh, yes. Sorry, Matthew. We should start signing books, probably, and I'll ask you more questions.
Yeah, but you can keep asking.
I will ask you more questions while you sign away.
Okay.
So I'll repeat that. What do you feel is the specific importance of queer people in resistance?
Well, starting with the chapter soon on in the book where Dad and I take this journey, and for several weeks we were going back to that club because they gave me a chance to play for tips, and then to see your grandfather having to defend his choice to keep taking me, because they might have forgiven him if he would have repented and said, oh, now I understand it's the gay club, I won't go back down there with my daughter. It was, no, this is the safest place for her, and they're giving her a chance, and they're helping us. So we're going. And I think that was, talk about resistance. He resisted a judgment that this is not blessed by God, that gay people aren't God's children. He resisted that. And to this day, I think he's talked with you about this.
Yeah.
And I think we can tell people, when there are people that are very, very right-wing in their Christianity that might pop around and say hi to him because, I mean, Florida man, not granddad, but they're around. And he has said, when somebody says things...
Yeah, he just says we don't judge.
That's right.
And he doesn't try and convince anybody. He just says that, get over it, really.
Yeah, get over it. And I believe that this changed his outlook on how to treat people and the humanity. That all of us have humanity, and it needs to be seen. It's not otherizing.
Yeah.
And that was a huge, to watch that happen to him too, to see that happen as a teenage girl, because we didn't always get on. I mean, I was a bit rebellious and he was a bit controlling, and I've written about it in all the songs.
Read the book.
Yeah, he's legend. But but that was a real eye-opener to see that we could both grow.
Yeah, and that seemed to be, when you ask what is the specific role of queer people in the book, I think that they really provided you and Granddad with a space to learn and grow and accept them and yourself more throughout the book that nobody else really gave you.
That's right. And they've continued to do that. When I don't understand something, they're not backwards and coming forwards. I love that saying the Brits have, where they just say, Tori, you need to think about it this way. Have you thought about this or have you thought about that? And that's how you learn.
Yeah, they're very good at teaching without making you feel stupid.
That's right. And of course, how I'm ignorant about a lot of things. So for them to say, hey, just you need to know more about this. Can I send you some information? And you're like, yeah, bring it on.
Yeah. Cara Courtney Evans from Lancaster, Ohio, says, what is one solid piece of advice you can give your fans during this global pandemic?
Yeah. Count to 10 before you say something. No, this is an opportunity. Look, it's cataclysmic. We have to just put that on the table. I haven't experienced anything like this. 9/11 is the closest experience I've had whereby the world turned upside down, but it turned upside down in a different way. There were other cities that were not under attack, so they could be there and supportive. And we were touring 2 weeks after, and we took you on that tour, little lady. You were there with us, and your father and I decided, yeah, we're going, that's what we do. And there would be bomb dogs at certain shows, and we tried to make sure everybody was safe. So it was a time of shock, and we talk about in the book collective trauma. But we're really going through collective trauma now. We're all in challenging situations, some more than others, and some aren't necessarily going to like the people that they're stuck with right now when they're out of this, and some will value people that they're with more than they did. And sometimes it's a little bit of both. I think that learning how to process in different ways, adapting, is really something that isn't always easy to do, because however old you are, whether it's you process information in a certain way, if you're respecting the lockdown, then you can't necessarily. I process through traveling. I take pilgrimages. I go places, different places, to break a routine. Well, I'm not going anywhere right now, so I have to take these trips in my imagination or with the piano through song. She's been helping me do that since I was little, and so now that kind of practice is being reinvigorated.
Yeah, and the 9/11 chapter in the book feels so relevant now. It's kind of scary, actually, the way that you talk about collective trauma and how everything can go from, you're talking about how you were thinking about getting ready that morning and little things that seemed important at the time, and then suddenly it all just comes into perspective. And I love how you say there was no blueprint for this, we didn't know how to deal with it, and it just feels very, very relevant right now.
I think the not knowing is always really, you grab your heart and say, well, I don't know. I don't know when we're touring again. We have plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, but we don't know. I do think, though, that the opportunity to write songs right now for anybody is important if you're called, but we'll all be called to write in different ways. Some people are dealing with having lost someone. Some people are working on the front line. We've gotten messages from people like that. And wow, they're sacrificing hugely to go out there. Some, are really, well, they are our soldiers. They're our front line.
Yeah.
And we applaud them. But the emotions and what it's bringing up in all of us is something I think that you're going to see a lot of artwork reflecting this time. And it'll be necessary because once they have a vaccine and they go through that, the wounds don't just heal, or the issues that get brought up during this time don't just go away. You know, there's scars there for some people. And there are also some revelations. People kind of realizing, oh, you know, I had time to think this through. We had very little time.
Yeah.
You know, people were just running around kind of like crazy people. And now what's a big challenge is sitting with ourselves and thinking, ooh.
Yeah. Being still.
Being still.
And I love at the end of that chapter, you talk about how you didn't know what to do, nobody knew what to do, and so you turned to the songs and the piano, and that's sort of how Scarlet's Walk started to progress. Do you think that that's going to happen now?
Well, I guess your songs are magic. Nothing against magicians, but songs really are magic. They come from ether, and it's co-creating with this force, whatever we want to call it. But I know it's real. That's one thing I do know. I don't know where people go when they die. I don't know if anybody really knows. But I know when I've written something, or when it's just been sprinkled and I'm thinking, I have no idea what this is. I need to figure this out. So that co-creating, knowing this force is real, it not just gives me hope, but it makes me realize that there's so much out there that I don't understand. I don't know, but I do know that there's a magic element to music and songs. And it's not an illusion. They're not being illusionists who are not tricking you, but messing with reality in that way. They're really trying to lift a veil to understand something, or to explain something in a way that other ways just doesn't make you feel you're heard.
Yeah. This is a good question. Mark Mazak from Isaaca, Washington asks, what's an annoying habit that someone in your house has that you never noticed before the pandemic? I am going to be making dinner, so be very careful what you say.
Oh, you know who doesn't want me to clean? You realize that the tasks that people just don't want you to do. So when they're clean freaks in a house during lockdown, you get to find out who they are and how, wow. All I have to do to not clean is pick up a mop.
Yeah.
Or pick something up, and then husband's there. Says, are you going to push dirty water across the kitchen, wife? Because I didn't marry you for that. So, okay.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. So you learn those things, which is a good thing to know.
Yes. For anybody confused, me and my father are the clean freaks. Ruthie Wallen from Bronx, New York asks, in a time when physical connection is limited, how do we stay emotionally connected to others?
Good question, Ruthie. It's funny. I don't know. I don't know, because there's something really about sitting down, having a cup of tea with somebody, and having that chat. I know people are going on Zoom, and I and other thingies, and having dinners or whatever and playing games. But there is really something that I miss. I really miss getting that hug from Karen Benz.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it. Yes, we're on FaceTime, and we were, getting the looks together today, and Kavita, so many people helped us do this, but it's so different than having Veets here and feeling her presence and having Karen here and being with them and sitting down and having a meal together. So of course, I so miss that.
Yeah.
But I think we're having to adapt. We're having to find ways to communicate. That is a great challenge. And how to get people to know how you feel about them.
And I think what you say about that special something about being close to someone physically is something that I definitely took for granted. I mean, I never even thought about it until now, really. And hopefully that's something that we can take back into the world to really appreciate what it is to have someone physically close to you.
It would be not just a shame, but a tragedy if fear, once there's a vaccine, I don't know the epidemiology. I don't pretend to know. Your aunt understands that. But for humanity, I think that one of our great gifts is that we can give each other a hug. We can really hold each other. Yes, I know metaphorically we can hold each other. I get it. But there's really something about, come here.
Yeah.
And it would be, a real tragedy if we don't find a way. Some people are saying things won't be the same again. It'll be a future. It'll be different. I get that. It was different after 9/11. Security changed. Flying was never the same again. But what I'm hoping is that fear of catching the next thing, maybe the lesson is to be better prepared and to make sure that we value the health system and value our health workers and make sure that they have what they need to be ready.
Yeah. They need to be getting paid footballers' salaries from now on.
Yeah.
Let's make that happen. Wendy Goetz from Chicago, Illinois asks, tips for artists dealing with increasing success and fame and how not to let the attention change the creative process.
That's a real tricky one.
But I can already tell there's about to be massive wisdom just coming out of you right now.
Well, fame is I've said before, is a sadist. And I actually see fame as a she. I just do. And very seductive because, you can lose your intention so easily. Why are you doing this? And that's because there's a strange need to not fail. And what is failure? What is that? But sometimes if your art is becoming what you do, not just a hobby, then sometimes people want you to create the thing that you just created because it brought success instead of growing. And then there's this dance of attention and notoriety and judgment and being invited to those groovy, cool parties and then not being invited because you're sort of not in that club anymore. Oh my God, that's exhausting. And why do you want to be a part of that club? It took me the longest time to realize, why do I want to be part of that? And that is a huge place to get to. And I would come in and out of that, to be honest, a lot in the 90s particularly, because you think, well, you're with, I don't know, you're with the groovy kids, but then you realize, but they're groovy over here. They haven't had that kind of notoriety and success, but they're really interesting people. And so it's finding, I think, your tribe.
Mm.
And you and I, we've talked about this, particularly with social media.
Mm. Yeah, I guess just because on social media you can have, it seems like the friendship group that probably before would have been smaller and more accepting now is so expansive that you can be that all those people would accept you in the same way.
Mm.
And I think it's just sort of knowing that, you know, just because we have the platform now to know more people, it doesn't mean that we truly know more people.
Mm. And who's really there for us? I think that's the question, the intention. Why is somebody there? When I had that failure, and I hope I talk about it, I hope I'm clear about it. When Why Can't Tori Read wasn't well received, it was such a hard lesson to realize that I didn't have the amount of friends that I thought I had.
Mm.
And that's because nobody wants to catch failure.
Yeah.
And so it's contagious, they think. So they don't want to come close to it. And then you really realize why people are in your life and why they're not. And it was a very tough realization to understand that a lot of people aren't there just because you're making good work. They're there, or you're on the path to making good work,
Yeah.
is that they're there because of the success
Mm-hmm.
and the little bit of fame and the attention.
Yeah.
They're not there for the right reasons, what I would call the right reasons. And that's God, it's so freeing when you get to that place. Then you just go, oh, okay. I'm going to eat my popcorn and my butter by myself. And Pete the dog.
Yes. Yes. Somebody asked about him in the questions, by the way, and he's very good.
He's working.
Yeah.
He's busy. He's upstairs fixing things.
Jessica Peluso from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, asks, what have you learned as a mother that is most important in bringing up a strong woman?
Ooh. Wow. That these times are challenging. The idea that there's equality just because it's 2020. We've talked about this, that there are challenges, even though the Me Too movement has been shining a light on sexual assault and not just women, but people who have had their careers destroyed by powerful, mostly powerful men. And I think that to really listen to you guys, it's learning from you all as much as anything, because I'm learning a lot from you and your friendship circle. You have a great friendship circle.
I do. I'm very lucky.
And I love how you all look after each other. And how you all share what you're learning with me and Dad, and that we're to be able to just listen and kind of hear some of the issues that you all are dealing with, and the environmental issues, the future that you're looking at, what kind of world, what will it take for our leaders to listen to you guys. That's been a huge, and you know, the earth has been trying to get us to just listen, but nope, we haven't listened, and it took shutting the globe, just shutting it down, for us to begin possibly to ask the questions, what kind of world do we want? And what are we willing to do to achieve that? I mean, what makes sense? Not just crazy nonsense talk, but real change. And what does it look like, and how can we do that? How can we achieve that?
And I think to go back to the question of mothering a daughter, I think in there is one of the key things for me is that you and my dad always listened to me. And from a very young age, there was always, you guys were always promoting me to voice my opinions, and I always felt heard. And I think growing up, because of that, I never thought that my opinions didn't have value. Which, I mean, is probably, sometimes I should shut up, but I mean, it's good to have that from a young age, to just feel listened to.
I wonder if there were times when your grandmother, Mom, Mary, would want to express something and talk about how she felt and issues, but as the minister's wife, she realized that it wasn't always an open conversation. She had to watch what she said in order to play that role. And I think that realizing that it wasn't an open kind of place, the church, where you could just express anything. In some aspects, she could. I think she loved it was called the Christian ashram format, where she would hold a prayer group, and she would lead a prayer group, and a lot of single mothers from Baltimore that had really tough lives would go to upstate New York, and they really would share, and they called each other Sister Hazel, Sister Mary, Sister Tash, Sister Tori, and they would really speak about, losing their sons to crime or being arrested, and it was predominantly African American women and Mary in these prayer groups, and I think that that's where she felt the most heard, in that kind of place where she could step into her spirituality, but also not be having to dilute what she thought, the injustices that she saw. She didn't have to kind of make it rosy. She could really look at inequality and talk about it within a church frame, which I think was really it was inspiring to see her grow in that way, and to hold a space for other people to express their opinion, that it was safe to do so.
Yeah, that's so lovely. So we're running short of time, so I'm going to do one more question from here, and then I think we'll do the speed round questions, which should be fun. And the last question I'm going to ask is for selfish reasons. And Jonathan Dubinsky from East Brunswick, New Jersey says, do you have any pets? And if so, what kind? Well, Jonathan, I want a cat, and my parents do not want to give me one. And I would like to start a petition for me to get a cat that I'm going to call Nigella, after the fabulous Nigella Lawson. And she's going to be an English short hair and follow me everywhere I go. So do we have that on camera, that's going to happen? I think we do.
That's between you and Pappy.
Okay, pressure him, Facebook. All right. Are we ready for the flash round questions?
Yes, we're ready.
Do we have any flash round music?
I will sign all these, I promise. I have a few to sign, and I will. You will get them. And thanks so much, everybody. Thank you, and so much love being sent your way during this time. We will get through this. We will. Resilience. We have to get through this together, and we will.
Yay. Okay, should we do the flash round question?
Oh, dear.
Do we have any music, team? We do. Oh, this is quite... Okay, are we ready? So, number 1. Who would you like to have dinner with, past or present?
Mary.
Oh. Which one, Game of Thrones or Stranger Things?
Stranger Things.
What is your favourite breakfast food?
I hate breakfast.
What is your favourite genre of music?
I like loads.
Who was your idol growing up?
I had a lot. Let me think. I loved Charlie's Angels, and I loved just those are the TV shows that I just loved that kind of television. I just did.
Well, your hair is definitely rocking
Yeah,
that today.
I'm stuck in the 70s.
I love that.
But not hopefully socially.
Not socially, definitely not so.
Yeah.
But fashion-wise, it's
Yeah,
good.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, we'll leave social behind, but go for the
Yeah.
go for the fashion. Okay, what is your favorite international cuisine?
I'm not sure.
This is a speed round.
Next question.
Okay, what is your favorite candy bar?
Milky Way.
Do you have a favorite season?
Winter.
Oh, what is your favorite childhood memory?
Being by the seaside.
No. Did you have an imaginary friend?
Clunky Timmy and Mr. Spaghetti.
Do you have a favorite animal?
Oh. Yes. But I'm not sure which one it is.
What is your go-to workout?
Touring.
What do you never leave home without?
Lip gloss.
And your massive bag.
But it's good when there's trouble.
Yeah, it has everything in it.
It has everything in it.
But it'll break your arm.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite superhero?
Yeah. I do.
Catwoman?
Catwoman.
Yeah. Is she a superhero?
I don't know, but I like her.
Yeah. What is your favorite time of day?
Middle of the night.
Have you ever ridden in a hot air balloon?
And never will.
What is your favorite board game?
Cluedo. Clue.
What are your favorite pizza toppings?
Oh. I should stick with cheese.
Do you have a favorite teacher?
Yes. Mrs. Barrett. Susie Barrett.
What did she
11th grade English.
Aww.
She really kicked my ass. No, she really, really did. I didn't understand why I was getting such bad grades, especially when somebody who was not very good at it was getting really good grades. And I asked her privately, and she said, because you're not trying. I went, oh. Wow.
That's, yeah. Fun method. Do you like movie popcorn with or without butter?
If we're making the popcorn at the house, then I like it with butter. If I'm in a movie theater, I'm not going to have that butter. No.
Who is your favorite author?
So many. My goodness, so many. I'm having to do that interview for The Guardian in the morning.
Who has impacted you the most? Oh.
The women in my family.
That's lovely.
They really have.
Well, that's the end of the speed round, ladies and gentlemen. And I think that's probably all we have for today.
Yeah, thanks everybody. You're the best. And big hugs.
Thank you.
Deck the halls, I'm young again, I'm you again. Racing turtles, the grapefruit is winning. Seems to keep getting this story twisted, so is Neil when you need him. Deck the halls, it's you again, it's you again. Somewhere someone must know the ending. Is she still pissing in the river now? Had she gone, moved into a trailer park?